Nikita's 11-year-old nephew is the one making all the decisions. Nikita's been on vacation for 2 years. They're like, yo, what should we add? He's like, a new attachment for the gun that was made by aliens, dude. And they're like, okay, I guess we're going to add the alien tech. And it's like, hey, Joey, apparently it's too good. What should we do? Yo, make it really fucking expensive and then make it also bad. Okay, cool. Yep, we're on it,
dude.
That explains like everything.
It would be the most acceptable scenario. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the podcast, a show dedicated to talking about all the progress things in life, like music, content creation, and video games. I'm one of your co-hosts, JesseKazam.
And pamplemousse is French for grapefruit.
Yes, pamplemousse. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Pamplemousse.
Le pamplemousse.
Le pamplemousse.
Apparently, that's the flavor of LaCroix that you're drinking.
Yes.
LaCroix.
LaCroix.
Is it?
I'm sure it's not LaCroix.
Yeah, is LaCroix? I don't know. I don't drink seltzer. I think did we have this discussion before?
Yeah, LaCroix is such a fascinating thing because, like, I'm fascinated by brands
drinking something that tastes disgusting.
Yes, that is step number one. I'm fascinated by brands that have existed for forever that, like, way later just randomly become super trendy.
Oh yeah,
because LaCroix has been around since 1981. I just Googled that. Okay, I've been drinking plain unflavored
Ancient.
Or like just like the stock raspberry LaCroix since I was like 11. Like, my mom loved LaCroix. She always had it in the fridge, and I kind of drank some. Sometimes I would mix juice with it when I was a kid, like, or Gatorade. But it's so funny because, like, in the past, like, 5-8 years, it like became that they started sponsoring influencers and like people were drinking it, and then all the memes of, like, you know, fruit just got next to sparkling water, like all, and which I find hilarious. But it's just so crazy because it's just been around, existing, doing its thing forever, and then it just like became super trendy.
I didn't even know, like, I didn't know that it was trendy.
Yeah,
which I think
big
now
time.
is the moment in which I've recognized I am now old, right? Like, it's like, oh, I don't know what's trendy anymore.
Yeah.
The other part of it is I don't watch TV, although that might not explain this. So many things are like, people, have you been watching this? Have you been watching that? I'm like, I don't watch TV.
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck has cable anymore? Under the age of 40. Yeah, I think actually when I went, a buddy of mine used to work at, he was like one of the fucking execs or whatever at MeUndies. And when I was out in California, I went and visited.
Really?
And he took me on. Yeah, it's really cool folks out there. Took me on a tour there and whatever. And I remember, like, people kept offering me LaCroix, and I kept having to be like,
What?
no. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So,
Well, things are weird. I do remember we talked about this because then we ended up talking about how Perrier is naturally bubbly, and they separate the carbonation from the water and then reintroduce it later, which is my favorite fun fact.
homeopathic bubbles or some shit.
Yeah. But other than
sus.
LaCroix, how you doing, man?
Dude, I'm fucking tired. I've been dealing with some shit. I don't know if you've ever had any of this stuff before, but I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. My poor grandmother, 89 years old. She lives alone, 2 hours away, and nobody, the only people alive on my mom's side of my family are me and my sister.
Gotcha.
And my sister lives an hour further from me in the other direction. And she's dealing with not the beginnings of dementia, but like the beginnings of when it starts to become really bad.
Yeah.
And dude, just dealing with like hospitals and doctors,
dude,
and nursing homes. So yeah, it's just been fun dealing with
that's awful.
Dealing with that every day, and like
that sucks.
Like, dude, I just have to like tell the story because it's wild. She fell, and she was in the hospital. then the hospital, she lives down in Massachusetts. The hospital was basically like, she's totally fine, and sent her home like the next day.
Yeah.
Now we knew that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Then like a week later, I don't even have to get into the details, but there was some serious like issues with hallucinations, and what we talked about this before. Like, I lost my mom when I was 11. Her mom, my great grandmother, died, like 300 years ago or whatever. And when I talked to her a couple of times, on this one particular day, she was basically like, when her mother and her daughter, when they get home and they see all the writing on the all the writing I did on the wall, they're gonna be so upset with me.
Oh man.
And then I drove down there 2 hours, and she's like, "You see all the writing on the wall?" And wasn't like metaphorical writing on the wall. She just didn't write. So
That's
just like
brutal, man.
Bring her to the hospital, and then we brought her to a different hospital, and they basically said, yeah, something's clearly wrong. Like, with the nurse there, she was pointing to her feet, like towards the foot of the bed.
Yeah.
And she was talking about the golden retriever at the foot of her bed. And I'm like, now you fucking see, because we keep being told that she's fine, that she's competent, and
that is brutal, dude. Oh.
And then 2 days later, we because at that point, it's a lot easier to transition into okay, let's put her in a nursing home. Let's have her apply for all of these things, like, elder services and whatever, get Medicaid and all this stuff. And so I drive home, and then the next day, 2 days later, I get a phone call saying, "Hey, we're releasing her from the hospital. She's good to go." And it's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Oh.
So I have to drive 2 hours down there just to have a 40-minute conversation in person, because I'm like, I demand a second opinion.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, she needs to be like deemed not capable of taking care of herself, because we had to shut her stove off because came in one day and she was trying to find a lighter so that she could start her stove, the gas stove, but she had the gas on, just on full blast for God knows how long. I mean, she would have blown the fucking house up.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
Now that whole thing was because her leg had a really bad infection, because she's had multiple surgeries with like stents for her heart and whatever. Yeah. So the infection had gotten up into her brain, which had made everything worse.
Yeah.
So as soon as the infection, was good, that's when
they're like, "Oh, it's all good." Yeah.
Fine.
Oh,
and I'm like, she's going to be back here, right? Like, I promise you she's going to be back here. And they're like, "Yeah, well, she might be back here, but this is the only thing we can do." And then I was like, "Okay, well, we're going to send her home, but I want to start the application process for the Medicaid to figure out if we can get her in a nursing home." And they're like, "Yep, the application process is underway." I talked to the lawyer that was there. Everybody assured me everything was all set. A week later, she's back in the hospital. She fell again.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, like, this is the last fucking straw. I need an update on the application process. Oh, the application process was canceled when we released her from the hospital. It's like, I talked to you and we said, she's going home tomorrow. There's nothing I can do to prevent that. But at least in the next couple of weeks, we'll be waiting for the application process. So, and then hopefully, 2-3 weeks from now, we can really. So, man, holy shit, I've just been dealing with all that stuff.
That's awful, man. That is awful. I am so sorry. That stuff is like.
I just feel bad for her, man.
Yep.
Because there are moments where she's completely lucid, and she's like, "I want to go in a home." She's like, the house is in a trust in like me and my sister's names, so like the nursing home can't take the house. Yeah. She's like, it'll, put me in a home 2 hours north up near you guys. It'll be great. All this stuff. And I'm like, that's amazing. That's fantastic. Like, I start making phone calls. The next day she's like, "I'm not going anywhere. What are you talking about? We never had.
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
That's awful, dude.
Yeah, man. So that's just been like, I'm just like
so
exhausted.
yeah, emotionally and physically exhausting. You know what I mean? Because it like takes so much of your mental and your emotional just like currency to have that looming over you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the other day, you know, actually anybody who's been in my stream the last few days will know, like I start my stream, I play for 5 minutes, I'm like, I have to take a phone call. And then they're just staring at a pause screen for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Because she's like, I need you to pick up salad for me. You're at the store, right? Like, what are you talking like what are you talking about? You know, so oof. And then between that and there's been an update to the whole like cheater thing we talked about.
Yeah, you were saying there was an update. I'm curious.
So
I know you're making a video about it, so we don't have to like spoil, but how do you set us up so that we need the video tomorrow or whenever it drops?
So we talked about a few different things.
Yeah, there were some people that you had like brought to like the farthest edge of your suspicion, and then some of those people were even named by Axel, and then there's been a new development.
Yeah, so God, how do I even phrase this? So basically, I had come to the conclusion after posting on Twitter, talking to, you know, like getting opinions from a few folks that I respect. I decided that I wasn't going to do anything. I wasn't going to pursue it because in the small chance, you know, the 1% or less chance that this person is legit, it's not worth like real world consequences, right? Like potentially hurting someone's career, you know, like whatever. It's not worth it. Just even bringing it up and starting the drama, like I'm just not going to do it. Yeah, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, whatever.
Yeah.
Now, of course, in that process, I had compiled a bunch of video evidence that I had put together into clips and sent to BSG to like take a look at, as well as you know, on the recommendation of like hundreds of people, basically saying, "Well, run it by a bunch of your streamer and community member, you know, people you trust, to get an opinion on whether or not." And every single person was basically like, "Yeah, he's sus as fuck."
Yeah.
Basically, almost all of them were like 100% sure, like, "Yeah, there's no way."
Yeah.
But like I said, I decided it just wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
So was it today or no, it was yesterday. Yesterday, Tiggs, who's another Tarkov streamer, who was also one of the folks that I don't know if we talked about it last week. Was he in this?
He was hanging out in chat last week. Yeah, we were talking about
after that conversation, I basically sent him the same set of clips.
Yeah.
And he basically said like, "Yeah, man, I'm gonna say something." He's like, "I'm not gonna mention you." I'm like, I can't tell people not to say anything.
Yeah.
I'm just not gonna be the one to, you know.
Exactly.
So then he basically pulled up a bunch of the clips and straight up called the guy out, who's a Russian streamer, Russian partner streamer, who's been in a number of competitions.
So this is a different person, or that's also been in competitions and also placed fairly well in them. Yeah. Not to say that anybody was like, with all the people that have been that have done Tarkov competitively, not to say that we know for sure that they were cheating during those competitions, but it's important to bring up that these people who are most likely suspicious have also at some point participated in these tournaments for money. So
yeah. So basically, Tiggs let the cat out of the bag. But then at this point, after that happened yesterday, I was wondering like, I wonder if the Russian streamer, I'm not going to name, if you guys want, you can watch the video. I'm just not going to name him now. I wanted to go into his stream today to see if he, had responded to it, because presumably whenever shit like that happens, there's tons of people, that are going to be spamming the chat, either saying, you know, fuck anybody that accuses you of cheating, or fuck you, you're a cheater, right? Like it's always going to be on one side or the other. And during the whole process, he had watched a bunch of people were like linking VODs, his own VODs, and saying like, explain this. And all of the explanations were all like, oh, well, I heard this guy on wood over here. Or I predicted that this guy was going to move here. It all had to do with knowing where people were, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or it was about recoil, basically saying he has no recoil. So people were kind of alluding to the whole no recoil cheat. The thing is that that's not actually what any of the suspicious
for
issues
him
were.
Yeah. Okay.
For this particular guy, it's all I can say is that it looks like, to me, completely non-human aim.
Yeah.
A lot of weird jittering and like weird stuff that doesn't quite make sense. That in the context of any gameplay I've ever seen in any game, it doesn't make any sense. If you think about normal human play.
Yeah.
But the moment you understand how an aimbot works, how aim lock works, if you have like an aim lock key, well, then everything completely makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like we talk about all the times where somebody's like, I think Veritas is cheating, and they can produce a clip. And you're like, clip. Okay. It's like everybody's going to hit that shot at some point. It's frequency, right? It's like, if like you were saying the other day, it's like, if it's like, there's 40 hours of VODs, you can click any VOD, click any moment in any VOD, watch until the next fight, and it's going to be the one in a month, one in a year shot. And you're like, how many of those do you need to see before you're like, we got to raise the flag of suspicion here? Yeah.
Yeah. See, even just something really simple, like just break it down to one thing. Let's say there's somebody who's on the far right of your screen when you like enter a room, right? Like you don't know where they are, but they're on the far right of your screen, and you need to flick from the center of your screen to the right.
Yeah.
How often would you say even really skilled players, Desmond, whatever, are going to go a little too far or not far enough? And in this case, it's 100% of the time, it just stops right on the and then the recoil. So basically,
because that's the thing, you take a guy like Desmond who's nuts, like objectively inhuman at the game. You slow down his gameplay footage, and you realize that he's not snapping exactly to heads as often as it looks. It's just if he overshoots, it's by so much less than I overshoot, and his ability to understand that and then course correct is faster than mine. So it's not like you can even slow down these guys' footage that are really, really good, and it's not like they're hitting pixel perfect head eyes, right? Like they're just the adjustments have to be are smaller because they're so good at the game, and that does look different than just like perfect. You know what I mean? Every time.
Yeah. So basically, I was just really frustrated because there's a number of things where you have a bunch of people all saying, you're a cheater. Here's a clip.
Yeah.
It's suspicious because of X, when X isn't the reason why it's suspicious. And then he's like defending himself saying, oh, well, everybody who has earphones heard the footsteps on the left. That's not why it's suspicious. That's not the problem. So it's almost like me explaining this now, I feel personally, whether he's innocent or guilty, is a win-win. Because if people are going to accuse you of cheating, because some people are going to just say, Tig said you're a cheater.
Yeah.
Right? If people are going to accuse you, then the accusations should be valid and or fair.
Yeah.
Because then and only then you're able to defend yourself.
Exactly. Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
He doesn't need to sit and defend the things that aren't. Nobody ever said he had wall hacks. Nobody ever said he had an recoil cheat like the other, the German guy that Axel did the video about. So part of that is here's what's questionable.
Yeah.
And here's how you could completely defend yourself and do away with do away with any of the suspicions. So I saw all this happening. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Like I'm just gonna I'm just going to comment. Now, most of the chat was in Russian.
Yeah.
But he speaks a little English. His moderators, a bunch of them speak English. Most of the stuff, all I saw, I was translating a bunch of stuff. It was mostly just like, fuck Veritas, fuck. And it was like, okay.
Hello.
Is what it is. You know, like, learn how to aim, learn how to control the recoil, like that has anything to do with it. And I was basically like, listen, man, just go into your hideout shooting range. And I want to see you just do some aim drills. Because if every single one of your 9 out of 10 of his flicks are Shroud's best flicks, then you could easily do it on pop-up metal targets. The thing is that aimbot isn't going to lock on to the metal targets.
Yeah. If anything, it'd be easier in the hideout, you know? So, because you know where the targets are.
You know, and just do that on the metal targets. Even just a few times, you know. Well, he doesn't have the fucking shooting range. So then he's like, what do you want me to do? And I'm like, try to explain, to create like a scenario where I'm like, okay, go into customs and then look at this sign, look at this sign, look at the, and because he kept just going into games, leaving the games, going into games, offline mode, online mode. And he's like, what do you want me to do? I'll do it. And I'm not going to be able to explain it with the language barrier.
No way. Over chat. Like, yeah.
So I basically said,
build a damn hideout. Build the shooting range, and then we'll do it tomorrow.
The problem is it takes 24 hours to do level 1, and then really what you'd want is like level 3 you know, hideout with the pop-up targets and stuff. But I said, well, how about a mouse cam? Just do a mouse cam for a raid. And he went in and instantly died to somebody I don't think he ever shot at. And then he went into another raid. And I was on my laptop in bed.
Yeah.
So I wasn't recording. And you can't like frame by frame on Twitch. It's really annoying. Yeah. And his camera was mirrored.
Okay.
You know, sometimes like cameras are so it looked like he was lefty. So he would, because one of the things that I would be interested in seeing is a really good example of one of the clips that was really sus to me, that makes no sense unless there's an aimbot, is he's in the fortress, second floor fortress, and turns the corner. And he thinks there's a guy like around he gets jump scared.
Gotcha.
By someone to his left. He turns full on like 90 degrees and starts spraying to the left, but the guy was like 30 degrees to his left. So here's what, did I send you this clip at all?
No.
So what happens is he goes full here and goes bop, bop, and then after the second bullet, it goes right to the guy, and then it's bop, back to the left, right to the guy, back to the left, and then perfectly on the guy, and he dies. But it's like, so that makes sense if you think the person's to your left and you get jump scared, while you're moving your mouse to the left, the aimbot's like, go this way.
Yeah.
Go this way.
Yeah.
Go this way.
Yeah.
And he's fighting against it, which would also explain when he's shooting people, and if they're moving or he's moving, his aim is going like, but it's always like this.
Because he's making adjustments you can't tell your brain to stop making, and then the aimbot's making adjustments, obviously doing what it's supposed to do. Yeah. Interesting.
So there were a few moments where like there was some of that jitteriness, and what I need to do is I need to just record it, download it, and frame by frame and look to see, because if his hand moves
smoothly in one direction, oh man.
I can kind of cross-reference it. The problem is that his webcam also has a delay, so I need to take the camera, flip it, and then I might offset it, because what I want to do is I want to make it so that it's synchronized.
You know what I mean? For sure.
Because I was actually going through. I went to like Willers, Ghost Freak, and a bunch of other people, and I went through their top clips of all time.
Yeah.
And I wanted to look through. I'm like, I want to see some insane flicks.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to explain the difference between the like greatest flicks that are super lucky, that are like 1 in 1,000 that you and I have, but like rarely.
Yeah.
And then I also want to show the like super skilled above average flicks and aiming, and like what that looks like. Like, here's what it looks like. And I got a bunch of clips. One was Willers, one is Ghost Freak. I get a few others where you can actually see their mouse hand, and you can see it. They're like adjusting and like flicking, and you can see their hand is doing all of the movements one for one. It's like, thank you. You know what I mean? It's just so weird when you see like this guy, like the aim going left and right, and what you see is this while he's playing, and it's like I don't think his senses. Someone said his sense was super high. I thought that one of his mods said it was like 0.24, which is low at 800 DPI. It's like what I have, so it's a decent amount of movement.
Yeah,
he was doing this, but with the delay, it's hard to analyze.
For sure.
Anyway, after that, he basically readjusted the camera and was done. It was like, fuck, But But basically, at the end of the day, I think that now that it's public, now that the accusations are out there, I think that what's best for everybody would be an honest, fair, and skeptical, reasonable breakdown of the things that are suspicious and the things that aren't suspicious.
Yeah.
There's other clips where like, that's not sus, that's not sus.
Yeah. Or like, what you had said, it's just like, it doesn't help anybody to make the accusations like, oh, you could have never heard that guy. It's like, no, that's not what's sus. And there is a defense for that. So if he is cheating, you're almost just like bolstering his defense because you're like, no, this is explainable. And then he explains it. And then it's like, oh, maybe, you know what I mean? It's like, we have to
then you get a bunch
talking
of people
about the right thing.
You ever see someone who's like, oh, I think Landmark's cheating, and here's one clip, and you're like, that's, sometimes it's like not even impressive, but even then it's like 1 in 1,000. So many people came in and saw him breaking down one engagement, the least sus engagement, and everybody was pointing to one thing, and they're like, that's bullshit, dude, clearly you're legit. That's why they think you're cheating? Oh, that's why? Then they're all ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's a bunch of reputations on the line. His... Tig's,
for sure.
I can't. As much as I tried to stay out of it, really, I decided I wasn't going to do anything.
Yeah.
The fact that Tig's played the actual video that I had sent him, it's hard for me to deny because over the last couple of weeks, what I've done is I've showed some of those clips,
for sure,
cropped everything out, so there's no face cam, no nothing. So nobody could trade. And I did that live on stream. I was like, yo, chat, does this look weird to you? Does this look weird? And you'd see some of the like weird jittery, tracking. But I'm like, I'm not going to make this public. And there's, if you wanted to look through every VOD for every streamer for the last month, go for it. Figure out who it was. But at this point, it's like, well, he showed the same footage. So it's like, I'm not even going to deny.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So ultimately, I'm gonna make the video. It really fucking sucks. But if he's innocent, I think he should be able to defend himself, and people should believe him. And he just In order to do that, though, I think he needs to understand what the accusations are.
For sure. For sure.
So I wanted to avoid this, but
but it's hard, man. I mean, it's like I understand the conflict because you don't want to start unnecessary drama, but at the same time, it's like this stuff sucks. You know what I mean? Like when people are cheating, like I'm as convinced as I could possibly be that the guy that, which you had talked about before, but the guy that Axel put in his video with the no recoil, like when you look at like the freaking RSH, you know what I mean? And the SVD, and you're just like, that's insane. Like, you know what I mean? And so the fact that stuff flies under the radar. And I understand, like, I get it. I mean, it's like anti-cheat in general, like, right? Like we'd rather accept that some cheaters fly under the radar and don't get banned. That we'd rather accept that than accept people who aren't cheating getting banned, right? But it's like, but then the other side of the coin is it just feels so bad when these guys don't get caught or compete in tournaments and stuff like that. And so it's like, it sucks, man. It sucks.
Yeah.
And largely the people that have done it, you know what I mean? Like whether it was Axel, whether it's you, are people who have gotten second, third, fourth, fifth opinions, right? It's not just like, I've got a hunch, I saw a clip. Like that's what I always respect about when you say you think someone's sus. It's like, if you say you think someone's sus, you probably watch like 8 to 10 hours of their VODs, right?
Yeah,
like it's not just like a clip. Like, that's what we get approached with. Oh, Jesse's cheating. You know, the timestamp in my highlight video, that means he's cheating. Or Veritas is cheating because of this clip. You're like, what? So it's like, that doesn't mean you're batting 1,000. It doesn't mean you're never wrong. But it means, you know what I mean? But I mean, and then you take that information, and then you say, well, what's the second opinion? What's the third opinion? What do you think about this? Right before you're tweeting it out or doing something. So it's like, you know, and then you get to a point where you've got 10,000 hours of Tarkov. You've probably got another 1,000 hours of watching other people play Tarkov over your career. And then you talk to Axel, and then you talk to Tiggs, and Tiggs has 12,000 hours of Tarkov and Axel. And it's like, the conglomerate here is like, okay, if there's a pretty good chance, you know what I mean, that we know what we're looking at here. You know, we can't say for sure 100% for every time forever, but I get it. I really do, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's like two kinds of spectrums at play when we talk about this stuff. Like when I look at all of the players that are better than me, because like I'm right somewhere in the middle of the spectrum, you know, like average. When I look at the best players in the world at you know, a game like Tarkov, the difference between me and them is not the type of things we do, it's they're just better and faster and better reaction time, you know, more precise. There's nothing that's like, when I watch the best in the world at chess, it's above my head. It's above my head, you know, like I can't tell the difference, you know, between a terrible move and a great move the vast majority of the time. But in Tarkov, it's in any game like that, it's not the case. Like it's really, you should be able to easily explain why you did what you did. Either I saw someone, and even if on stream, if the volumes are different or there's video compression, and if you can say I saw somebody, and I might give you the benefit of the doubt that those pixels got jumbled together in the JPEG, the fucking, you know, encoding. But it's but in the situations here, and then the one back in the day with that Tarkov Anatomy guy, and then other ones that I haven't farmed for content previously, where other people have admitted to cheating and no longer stream Tarkov anymore. All of the people that I've gone to and talked privately, they've all admitted it. So far I have a 100% hit rate there. Because I mean, it takes balls to go to someone and be like, I don't think you're legit, right?
Yeah,
because
for sure.
Put your money where your mouth is. In all of those cases, you'd watch something and it wasn't like, wow, that was fucking crazy skill. It was, why did any of that happen? What am I looking at? It's confusing. Right? It's not impressive. It's confusing.
That's such a good point. That's such a good way to put it. When you watch Willers, when I watch Desmond, when you watch Landmark, so much of Tarkov's skill, not to negate, like they're nasty at aim, right? Like they got the flicks. But so much of being like truly good at Tarkov is how you handle being surprised. Because you never know. You never know if there's a fourth. You never know if there's a fifth. You never know if there's another guy. You never know if that nade blew him up. And that's such a thing missing from these guys that are so often so sus, is that they're like the guy that was running around with the underbarrel grenade launcher that killed me and Valiant. You go back and you watch it and you're like, he's never been surprised that there was a PMC there. He always just knows. And so like, that's a big part of being good at Tarkov. That's a big part of what makes the best the best. And then you add that with like really like a lot of skill and the ability to flick and stuff like that. And I think that's part of the X factor that makes these things stand out, is that, you know, like you watch Landmark and all the time, like he's got a bunch of sub alerts that are like him screaming where he's just like, oh, because like he doesn't see the third guy and he clicks the reload right in time and he hits the nasty point fire. And some subconscious part of your brain follows that thought process. You go, oh, he was surprised and then he put himself in a good position and he had really good aim. So you're like, I can follow that. But when it's just like hours and hours and hours and hours of just like clicking heads and just like stone cold, it doesn't mean you have to react, but there's something there to just like, how does this guy just know where everybody is? He's never surprised by what's happening. Like that's a big part of it.
And in this respect too, there's actually one clip that it just stands out to me because he does the whole kind of like sidestep tap, and he does it like 2 or 3 times, and he's missing the first couple, and then on the third one, he goes sidestep tap, and it's kind of like from the front of like Crack House towards like the hole in wall.
Yeah.
and there's a guy like against the wall in like the bush area, which is like impossible to see on stream, especially because it's just like,
yeah.
and all of a sudden the third or fourth one goes pop, and you hear, oh, and the guy dies, and he goes, oh, and it's like the one time he does some crazy shit that looks legitimate, he's surprised.
Yeah.
Every other time he's like, and it's like
dropped a 5-man, 3 times today, emotionless,
yeah.
kills one guy with a nasty flick, and all of a sudden it's the biggest thing that's happened to him.
So I just sent a link. This will be in the video, but click that Google Drive link real quick.
Okay.
And then go to the end. It's 2 minutes. Where is it? 2 minutes and 19 seconds.
Okay. Oh, is this
this is the one I was talking about.
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah.
That was the first clip. So when somebody reached out to me and sent me a clip, and I saw it, and I'm like, that's really sus. I literally scrolled down to like 14 days ago. Look at Jesse's face right now. The people that are listening to the podcast,
watch
audio
the video.
Medium, Jesse is like completely and utterly. He looks like he's about to throw up.
It's just like, okay. I'm bad at Tarkov, so I do the real life version of that all the time. This is where Jesse can.
Where you're like, this
is where Jesse can put some authority down. I definitively suck at Tarkov, so I all the time get shot at, and my boomer brain cannot process what direction I'm getting shot from, and I frequently am just shaking my mouse violently trying to find where the guy is, and I fall over dead. That is the most
doesn't it look exactly like I described?
That is software. You know what that looks like? You know what that looks like, bro? That looks like when I run BitBot and somebody donates for a 360 spin and I'm fighting it. If they do it in a fight, that's what happens. Because
bro, do you have any clips of that?
I can probably find it because I set BitBot up to do a 360 and mag dump to like try and accidentally team kill my enemy. But if I'm in a fight, somebody hits it, I'm like trying to fight it, and then I let go because I'm like, oh, they did the bits, and I like let the thing happen. But that's what that is. This is not normally.
Yeah, dude. So it's like, and that's a 3-minute montage of every single kill in the first hour of one stream.
Yeah.
You'll have to watch that if you haven't seen it already. And every single one of them is just like the most jittery, robotic. There's actually another crazy clip too where like a dude, he's like down the stairs and a guy jumps over him and he's like, and it just snaps directly up. And it's like,
man.
And it's just stuff like that it's like, how the fuck do you, and he's been streaming for 2 years.
Yeah.
At least 2 years, like maybe 4 at this point, because I think there was something that he competed in like 2020, and it's like, I just, how does anybody see that in every kill and not say anything? It's so common with all the streamers that I've seen, where everything they do is like inscrutable, just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and
nobody ever questions it. I've just come to the conclusion that people are really fucking bad judges of what is legit and what's not. And of course, they're the first to gaslight you on like, oh, dude, he probably just hurt somebody. Yeah, he hurt somebody, which made him lock on to the guy's head who never saw.
Damn. Well, peep that video coming soon.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, yeah, you'll have to watch that. I've got another one too, another 3-minute segment. And I could watch it all day long.
Yeah.
Because it's wild.
Damn.
Oh, but yeah, and the hardest part, I think, too, of the whole thing is the fucking language barrier.
Yeah.
Like, it was really friggin' hard because I wanted to reach out to him. I was talking to Axel behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Because him and Axel actually competed together.
Yeah.
Before, and Axel, they're both... Axel speaks Russian. I actually don't know if Axel is Russian or not.
I'm not 100% sure. And yeah, I know he speaks Russian, but
so I was trying to like have him be like an intermediary, but it gets a little awkward. But it would have been actually much better if I had taken the time to use our first sponsor of the day.
Hey-o!
Segues. Yeah, to learn another language.
Yes.
Tell us about our sponsor.
So yes, thank you so much for the first sponsor of this week's episode, Babbel. So Babbel is really cool. My only like experience of learning another language was like the mandatory, I don't know how it is around the world, but the mandatory like 2 years you have to take in high school. You know what I mean? I took Spanish. My brother took French. I don't remember a single thing from it, dude. My wife took Spanish like 3 years in high school and 3 years in college, and she doesn't remember a single part of it. So it's funny because like low key for real, this isn't a part of the ad read or anything. Like I've always wanted to learn another language. In my adult life, I've always thought it would just be fascinating to be able to speak another language. I don't know. It's just like perspective of getting older and like hearing other people talking. You're like, holy cow, there's so much more than just my perspective on the world. So it's really cool that Babbel is sponsoring this week's episode. It's a language learning app. They have over 10 million subscriptions sold. And what it does is like a really good job of like striking a balance between a bunch of things, but like kind of gamifying it a little bit. So you like want to like keep going and you want to keep learning. But at the same time, they're 15-minute lessons, which make it perfect for either on the go or on a commute or on the bus.
Nice
or
little snippet.
Yeah, 100%. So it's like they've kind of really distilled it down to like the best of both worlds, where they gamify it a bit, but it's not like too much of a game. Like it's really, really important stuff, and they like prioritize what you need to learn to get you conversational. And then there's a bunch of other stuff like built into it. They even have like speech recognition technology so that it can help you with pronunciation. And you can speak into it, and then it can help with certain things. They're incorporating, they're incorporating AI into like helping with the lesson plans and stuff like that. It's really, really cool. You can choose from over 14 different languages, including Spanish, French, Italian, and German. And so it's kind of just like the all-in-one complete package. It's really, really cool. And this has gotten me super inspired again to like want to learn another language. So,
Same.
Yeah. So Babbel is really, really cool. There's tons of different ways to learn. In addition to the lessons, you can access podcasts, games, videos, stories, and even live classes. And it comes with a 20-day money-back guarantee. So you can start learning a new language today with Babbel. Right now, you can get up to 55% off your subscription when going to babbel.com/pogcast. That's babbel.com/pogcast for up to 55% off your subscription. Babbel, language for life. So thank you so much to Babbel for sponsoring this episode.
Muchas gracias.
Yes.
Obrigado.
Merci
Dude, you know
beaucoup.
What?
Mercy buckets.
There's so many. I got a shout out to the Brazilian Tarkov community. The little subset of the Tarkov community from Brazil. They're so fucking awesome. Like everybody in the Tarkov community is awesome.
Yeah.
But man, you know how many people come in and are like, "Yo, love from Brazil. We love you in Brazil."
Yeah.
It's like holy shit.
Like,
and I'm Portuguese, but like fake Portuguese because I only know like 5 or 6 words in Portuguese.
Really?
But you know, I really legitimately am going to
Dude,
invest some time to learn some Portuguese, because I would love to be able to converse with a lot of the people in the community. They're so fucking awesome.
I started to learn Portuguese when I worked at the Apple store in Orlando, and 99% of our customers were from Brazil. Like it was crazy. So the Florida Mall in Orlando, they were like billboards for the Florida Mall in the northern part of Brazil. Like I legitimately like met people and sold iPhones to people. I was like, how long are you in the States for? And they were like, oh, we just popped up here to get this. We skipped school today. We're getting these phones. We're going back tonight. And I was like, what? Like they would just pop up into Orlando. And so it was really cool. I learned how to talk about Apple products in Portuguese for a small period of time, but it was really cool.
Yeah, oh my God. Yeah. My great uncle had like more than one PhD in like Portuguese language relation stuff. Like,
whoa.
Yeah, he taught at like Providence College, and yeah. And I think the only thing
that's cool.
The only word I ever learned from him was mamiñas, which I'll let that be an inside joke with me and all the people who know Portuguese.
Oh, damn. Okay. I just remember the lessons I was taking back in the day. Una menina, now está dirigindo. Like all the random sentences you learn. The girl does not drive the car.
Dios mío.
Okay. So
what's Tarkov land?
Other than that stuff, there's not a whole lot going on in okay, there's always drama going on in Tarkov, but there's not a whole lot of like big things happening, off that podcast and stuff like that. The big thing that happened this week, and a small thing that happened this week, that connect together. Okay, so we talked about this last week. They did the 15% recoil, just like all guns, 15% less recoil. And then we talked last week about how ridiculous I thought it was that they went back in and they were like an additional 18% recoil reduction for the Val and the VSS. I love the Val and the VSS. I think they're fun guns. I miss when they were meta. They were fun guns. But the argument I made wasn't, I don't care about the Val and the VSS. The argument I would say, if we're going to do a patch that affects one gun, there are guns that need help. You know what I mean? Like
the M4.
Yeah, the freaking MCX. Like we need help, not just there. And so I thought that was ridiculous because I was like, what the hell is going on? They did the recoil patch, then they did the Val patch. Now, Veritas, what do you think is going to happen if the Val and the VSS get buffed by 15% or 50% less recoil, and then additionally 18% less recoil 4.5 months into a wipe where every other person has a billion rules? What would you think would happen? You think more or less people would want to use the Val?
I think, people really like to they don't like to min-max and use the best. They like to use what is fun.
Yeah.
Naturally, they're all going to use the same fucking build that insert streamer here uses on stream.
Okay. So very obviously, everyone was using the Val. As to be expected, I wasn't mad about that. I gotta pull up Axel's tweet so I don't get the number wrong. You might have seen this. A few days after that, so for the Val, there's SP5, SP6, and I think those are the only ones you can buy. There's SPP, there's BP, and there's PAB9. Last week we went over that they adjusted so you can't craft SP6 anymore. You used to be able to craft SP6. You can only craft PAB9, and they changed the recipe for that craft so as though that you need 200 SP6 to turn into the PAB9. So now can you not only craft SP6, but now it's required for the craft. The only two you can buy are SP5 and SP6. SP6 got increased to 3,137 rubles per round.
Like
from proper level 3.
Wait, that's not like the flea market price?
No,
that's
you can't buy it on the flea market. It's 3,137 rubles per round. You can buy 120 rounds per reset, which is 4 Val mags, which is like 3 seconds of shooting out of that gun. And it was 376,000 rubles. Now, chat, no spoilers, don't get ahead of ourselves. But that happened. So the price of the gun skyrocketed because everyone was excited to run it, right? And the mags, the 30-round mags, are 39,000 rubles a piece from Prepper. And it was 376,000 rubles to run. Now,
what was SP5 though? Was it still like 200 rubles?
187. What? Yeah, it's so
and
cheap.
That's still an amazing round.
It is, dude. It is. Okay. Now they have buffed SP6 in the past. It used to be like SP5 was the worst, SP6 was the second worst, and then SPP was the second best, and BP was the best. They've reworked it. I do think SP6 is better than SPP now. But it's just that gun is good, right? Like all the ammos out of that gun are good because that gun is good, so anyways, SPP 370. So immediately people started freaking out about a bunch of different stuff. I feel like so many people were just like missing, like a lot of people went to the whole, if you want nice things, they're going to be expensive. Like if you want to be a Giga Chad, like a lot of people were like money sink for somebody. I responded to Axel's tweet and I was like, why? And somebody was like, you streamers are too rich. You know, it's got to be a money sink. You got to spend your money somewhere. And then people were like, you want nice things, you're going to have to pay for them. And this logic breaks down on every single level, right? So there's the level of if you want powerful guns, you have to pay for them. No, Tiggs tweeted this out. KS-23 with Strap 10, 35,000 rubles. Okay? One click anything in the entire video game. AXMC Lapua, if you get it unlocked with FMJ, one taps almost anything at any range. You don't even have to hold 300 meters. That's about 400k. The VSS with 4 mags and the basic attachments like the flashlight, the mount, and optic, 4 mags and 120 rounds of PS was like 840k because it was like super expensive on the flea market, the Val and VSS. So it's like that argument of like, well, if you want powerful things, you got to pay the premium. No, you don't. If you want this powerful thing, you have to pay the premium. Secondly, well, you guys are rich, so you deserve to pay extra. This is not at all addressing how people are getting rich, right? So it's like, it's not preventing people from getting rich at all. It's just saying, if you want to run this gun, you have to pay more. Mm-hmm. And the game is so unbalanced that it's not. The third thing is, well, it's a money sink for you guys. No, it's not. People are just not going to run that and go back to running the Mutant with BP or the MDR with M80 or M62 or M61. It's like,
or the Meta HK.
Yeah. It's like if you made Saluas 1,000,000 rubles per, it wouldn't be a money sink. People would just buy 2 IFAKs because that's how BSG balances stuff. An IFAK is 75% as good as a Salua. In this metaphor, in this analogy, they're just making the Salua 1,000,000 rubles per, and the IFAK gets to stay 6,000.
And then people complain, and what they do is they're gonna make
balanced.
the IFAK. They're gonna make the IFAK 10 times more expensive. So now you can't buy fucking anything unless you're the richest.
Unless you're the rich people,
and then everybody else suffers.
So, and then on top of all of those things, on top of all the logical fallacies, my biggest problem with this is like, you were the ones that buffed the Val twice.
Yeah.
Why did you do that? If you're like, what did you want? Like, what did you, what? I'm like, dude, I just don't get it. If they didn't want people running around with it, then they just didn't have to do the second buff.
Here's a question, actually, that may or may not be relevant. Do we know if the changes to the price, like if you drew a line about the price changes, would it be an instant jump up or would it be gradual? Because I wonder, there's always been this like looming question about whether or not they ever actually implemented dynamic pricing.
Yeah.
So there's a world, it's probably not this world, it's a world where we've got hot dog fingers.
Yeah.
There's a world, that's a throwback, right?
Yeah.
There's a world where like people are buying a ton and it goes up 10%. And they keep buying a ton, it goes up 10%. And keep buying a ton. And then this is like the maximum where it's like they won't.
So I would, that is definitely possible. I would have imagined that the people that report on this stuff would have noticed it between 1,200 rubles and 3,000. Because it was overnight, because everybody was running the Val, they were running it tons, and then we just woke up the next morning and it was like, and so even if it was like an hourly thing, these guys are buying it on reset because they want to run the Val. So I would have imagined that somebody noticed between. Now, the other interesting thing is since then, it was only 3,100 rubles for like 18 hours, not even a full day, and they reduced it to 2,200 rubles around. So it went from 1,200 to 3,100 to 2,200.
Which would also make sense if
that's the dynamic thing. If everyone stopped buying it, you know what I mean. But I really don't think it is. So it just
I don't either.
Yeah, but it could. Yeah, no, for sure. It's just like, man, like people get very confused as to like my frustration about this a lot. You know, you've experienced this a ton. It's like, I don't care about the Val, man. Like, whatever. Like, is the Val good? Cool, right? Like, it's why are we doing things this way? It's like, it's what's the problem? You know, somebody was like, somebody mentioned, actually, a content creator I love, Tulu. He was like, well, maybe they just nerfed the price because SPP is a great round. And I was like, you're right. Like SPP, honestly, well, he made a comment. He was like, I'm surprised we could even buy SP6 anyway, because it's like so good, because they've taken a lot of ammos off the traders. And I was like, you're right. I am surprised we can buy.
It's better than 9 mil. PS or AP.
Yeah, I'm like, I am surprised we can buy it, but like, let's say that's the thing. Like this round is overpowered. Making it 3,000 rubles a round is the stupidest way to address it being overpowered. Because once again, it's just like at 3,000 rubles a round, it might as well just be 50,000 rubles a round. So few people are going to pay that price, even if you're a billionaire, even if you're a literal hyper rat Tarkov billionaire, not because they care so much about the money, but because there are so many other options that are meta guns that are so much less expensive. So it's like the balance, like you can't ever just like pick up a gun and balance it. There might be guns that's like, oh, the recoil this is way overtuned. This needs to come down. But like in an economy like this, that's so messed up, right? Like people are just like, people were using meta guns and they were like, I missed the Val. And then they double buffed the Val and they were like, oh, I'm going to use the Val. And then they nerfed the Val by nerfing the ammo. And nobody went, oh, well, I guess I'm just going to use a nerfed Val. Everyone just went back to running the stuff they were running before the Val buffs. So it's like, I just don't understand the circular. It blew me away at every level. I didn't understand how people just like missed why this was so dumb. Like, you know what I mean? I don't understand what Battlestate Games is thinking when they like make these changes. I mean, maybe it's legitimately just like 4 different departments all like reaching their hand into the cookie jar and making random changes and not considering whatever. Or it's just one dude literally laughing his butt off at the office. But it's just like so weird. And there are once again, there are so many things that are, you know, just virtually updating stuff on a spreadsheet that would be so much more impactful on the game than buffing the Val, then rebuffing the Val, then nerfing the Val ammo. It's just like, it's so confusing. It's so confusing.
Bro, if this shit happened at like any company that I'd worked at previously, 2 years ago, there would have been like a come to Jesus speech that somebody would have made saying, we are no longer making these mistakes. Okay. Yeah. These are the protocols we're putting into place to make sure that this and this and this and this, you know what I mean? Like, it just, like, we're going to have the same conversation 2 years from now.
Yeah.
Because I had this conversation 2 years ago, and then I also had this conversation a year before that and a year before that. And it's like, at what point, which is kind of why I'm just so fucking apathetic.
For sure.
Because it's like, at what point are they going to learn? I don't know, man. But like, wake me up when that day comes. Because I just don't give a fuck anymore, you know?
For sure.
It's just so frustrating how nothing ever makes sense and how, you know, like...
Yep. And I just, it's like, yeah, they've just burned any of the the change. These changes are so arbitrary that they like burn goodwill, right? Like when things are made like, okay, so reducing the recoil of all guns by 15%. A lot of people were like, this is dumb, whatever. And then a lot of people were like, yes, like I want no recoil guns. I want Call of Duty. And then there were a lot of people in the middle, like what we talked about on the podcast, where like my take on that was like, I still think recoil's busted and I'd rather them do it this way. But if they are doing it this way, if they are adjusting, like completely redesigning recoil, I'll take this 15% reduction in the meantime because it makes things better. So there are changes like that where it goes a little bit too far, a little bit too deep, a little bit too wide, but you can mentally go, well, if we're on our way to this journey, I can understand that. And so you might keep some of that goodwill. But this is just one of those things where you just like burn it. People just don't understand. It's not communicated by the devs. And so people, what happens in a void? People fill the void. And that's where you have everybody deciding they know why they did it. They did it because streamers are too rich. They did it because the Giga Chads are too powerful. They did it because you guys need a money sink. They did it because if you want good guns, you need to pay the premium price, right? Like, and they just fill it with all this garbage. And it's like, you're giving like BSG too much credit. You're giving them the benefit of that. You're going to the cheater who's using aimbot and saying, "How'd you hear that guy?" You know what I mean? It's like you're not.
No, you're going to the cheater who you think has aimbot and saying, "Oh, well, I heard him. You didn't hear him."
Yeah, exactly. So it's
he
like,
seems legit to me.
It's just like, I don't. And I know that there's going to be like a non-zero amount of people who hear this and be like, dude, the Val ammo, like this one thing, it's not that big of a deal. You're making way too big of a deal out of it. It's
indicative of a pattern.
Exactly. It's indicative of a pattern and a lack of understanding of like how to balance things. You know what I mean? Like,
it just shows the it's a way of thinking.
Yeah.
That is arguably the biggest enemy to Tarkov.
Yeah.
Is this whole, I'm going to fix everything with a hammer. And today the problem is I've got a missing pixel on my monitor. Well, fix the monitor, like.
And they just didn't even give it a week, right? To just let it level out. It's mid-wipe. It's arguably end-wipe, bro. If you make a change to any gun, if you make the Glock 18C, the full auto Glock, if some data miner tweeted out that the Glock 18C got a 20% recoil reduction, that gun would objectively still be horrible. And it would be all you see for 3 days. Mm-hmm. Because what the hell else are we supposed to do? Late wipe, right? Whatever. That buff would not make the Glock 18C OP. It's got 773,000 recoil, and you can't get good ammo for it, right? But everybody would buy one. So it's like, they didn't even give it a week to like let the sales of the VSS and the Val just like level out and kind of like see where it ends. They increased the price at the height of the everybody. Like people were like, oh, like I haven't got to play in 2 days. I was at school. I was visiting my mom. I heard the Val's good. And then they come sit down on the computer and it's 3,000 rubles around for SP6. Now, once again, you can definitely get away with SP5, but it was just like, you didn't even give it the time to like let it level out, see where it is, and then make these adjustments. And then the adjustments you made wasn't a micro adjustment to try and course correct. It was a macro adjustment. You literally 3x the price of the round. And it was just like,
they don't know how to figure out. They don't know how to diagnose problems. They don't know how to fix problems. They don't know how to go about after they fix a problem or attempt to fix a problem to analyze and assess what the results of their changes are to figure out good, bad, too much, too little, wrong thing, wrong direction, whatever. Yeah. None of that. They don't have any of the necessary. And this is like a bunch of people who can program that aren't game designers.
Yeah.
It's just what it feels like. You know? It feels like if you have a bunch of mechanics and in a fucking boardroom with Henry Ford, and he's like, all right, here's a marker. Design a car for me. And they're like, I'm not an artist or an engineer but all right, it's going to have this is the wheel and 26-inch rims. Yeah. And it's going to be, the rims that's not going to work with the wheel well. Well, fuck it. Then we'll make the wheel wells twice as big. Yeah. And then, then the tires aren't going to, okay, well, then we make the tires out of cardboard.
And then 6 years later, you get this like bastardized thing. And every time something leaks, it's like, what the hell do we do? So they hit it with a hammer.
Cover the cardboard in super glue, and then we're gonna duct tape the steering wheel to the turn signal because the problem is that the turn signal was a knife. Yeah. And so that kept cutting people, and they didn't like that. So we wrapped it in tape and then connected it to so that when you turn the wheel, it.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. Again, if you don't like it, it's a fucking hardcore car.
Yeah. And once again, like I really truly hate, it makes me uncomfortable to like assume that I know what's going on. It makes me uncomfortable to not to like go to my dying breath being like, but maybe there's this reason for it, but maybe there's that. And it's just like, I'm out. I'm depleted, right? It's just like, I can't. And I beg them to communicate more. I beg them to communicate these issues and why, like, or these changes and why. I you know what I mean? Like, it's the age old, like you say you don't want metas, and then you reinforce these metas, and the metas are still in the game because supposedly it's not worth balancing. We're just going to wait until the game comes out and then do a rebalance. But then you keep balancing the wrong way. And so it's like, I would literally respect them more if they hadn't changed a single thing about a gun or ammo in 2 years. Because if they were just like, we're just going to wait, we're sorry, I'd be like, okay, it's a decision. I disagree, but it's a decision. But it's like, we're not going to balance anything except for these things, and we're going to balance them wrong. But what about these things? Well, we're going to wait. Then it's like, well, wait, what are we doing here? You don't like metas, but then you make things meta, and then you immediately nerf them out of the meta when other things that have been meta for 3 years are still meta. And certain things that have sucked for 3 years still suck. Why are we like, what is it? Are we waiting or are we balancing? Because if we're balancing in 10 minutes, I feel like we could make this 50% better by not doing what you just did. You know, so it's just like, I just don't understand like the process behind this and like when and why. And just like,
dude, imagine the alternate universe where imagine sitting down in a room with folks at BSG, right? And just having a transparent conversation around like, yeah, Tony wanted to make this change and it was a typo. We fucked up when we fixed it next day. Or we wanted to do this thing because we wanted to test out something and we got a result that we didn't expect, so we did this. Yep. Or we did this and it was for a stupid reason. Whoops, our bad. You know, like just something. Just imagine a world where like they have an explanation for any of the things they've ever done.
Yep.
Good or bad, and it's just like either we made a mistake or if you don't like it, too bad, like anything.
Yeah.
But instead, it's just there's a wall full of knobs, and somebody at BSG puts on the blindfold and goes, and then patch notes print out automatically, and then there's a bunch of wires plugged into fax machines and servers, and they're like, oh, shit. Oh, I'm going to cut this thing with the scissors and unplug and then change the thing. And then how's the game? Is it bad? You guys don't like it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know, actually, I'm looking at it and I kind of like it. I don't know what I did over here or what kind of effects it has. And I'm not going to watch your video that you put 3 months into explaining it. I kind of like it.
But then...
Yeah, we might revisit later.
And then,
don't worry about it.
Yeah, and then they ultimately 24 hours later revert the change, but only halfway. And it's just like,
oh, you don't like it?
Yeah.
There you go.
And it's just like, it's like, and that's what I love. I know I always bring up Star Citizen, but like they lean into the fact that it's like at least they're self-aware that their game is a mess. And so they'll say stuff like that. They'll be like, we tried this and we were really wrong. Sorry, it's going to be 4 weeks before you can access your account. And on some level, it sucks, but you're like, at least they said it, right? At least they're aware their game is a mess. But it's just like a walled garden. We don't know why they make these changes. We don't know. There isn't like we were trying to do this, or like we saw this and we wanted to see this. There isn't any of that. It's just like, it's like they want to keep up the facade that their game is like almost AAA, so they don't say anything. But we're all like, what the hell? You know what I mean? And there's just no explanation.
I feel the same kind of sorrow when I try to like square the circle. When I think about the differences between like, it's the same kind of sorrow that I get when if I call customer service at a company and instantly it's like, hey, you know, this is Dave. I'm with customer service. Can you tell me what the problem is? I'd love to help you. And they're just like, great. And you're like, oh my God, right? And then compared to you call the number and it's like,
Your call is important to us. We're super, super, super busy. We're going to get to your call as soon as we can. Man, you fuck our... God, we're so invested in your problem. Unfortunately, all of our consultants are on the phone right now. You should just fucking unplug it and plug it back in and call back later.
Bro,
Click.
why is that so good? Why was that so good?
It's that same thing where it's like, is there a fucking human on the other side of this or not? You know,
Yeah.
like it just,
Yeah.
like you said, it just there's no transparency. It's a concrete wall,
Yeah.
and you open up the little fucking thing, and you get, oh god, never mind. Not another metaphor. Fuck. I was picturing when you're in prison, and all you have is that little like mail slot where it's like your food comes through.
Yo,
you're like,
seriously,
you
they're
don't
like,
know
any
who's on the
changes?
other
Any changes? They're like,
Yeah.
Val ammo's 3 times the price. And you're
Dude,
like,
imagine-
oh, gruel for lunch. No.
Imagine waking up like suddenly you went to bed in your bed at home next to your wife, right? And you wake up in a cell and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, hey, someone let me out. And you're just in a fucking, 2x6 whatever with a toilet, and there's just a door, there's no windows, and you're like, what the hell? And then twice a day, the little flap comes out, and your fucking tray full of like applesauce,
Yeah.
and like nutrient cubes comes through, and you're like trying to look through the hole, like, are you aliens?
Yeah.
Is this, have I been kidnapped? Is this like the government? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? And you just never know.
And here's the thing, is that maybe there's a universe where on the other side of the wall, some cosmic horrors are happening, and it really is best for you to be in there, okay? It's not likely, okay? It's not
You
likely.
open it up and you see like Cthulhu, you're like, lock me back in.
It's not likely. We're gonna land this analogy. But there's a universe. But what I think you can't do is ever blame the prisoner for not knowing that when it's not communicated that to them, right? So even still after all the bull crap that's happened in Tarkov, I can acknowledge that maybe there's a universe. I acknowledge that the chance grows slimmer every day, but somewhere out there, there's a universe where the Val ammo change, there was a good reason for that, right? But after literal years of no transparency, no communication, things that objectively make other things of the game worse and that are left in the game for a really long time, there comes a point where you have to acknowledge that, like, the people who are frustrated at this game, like, okay, that frustration, I was talking about this with Chad earlier, like, they've earned the skepticism, they've earned the frustration, they haven't earned abject hate and vitriolic threats and stuff like that, right? Like,
harassment.
exactly, they have not earned harassment, but like, I get it if it's your first wipe and you're like, guys, just stop, just enjoy the game, just have fun, just play another game. You know what I mean?
I like the nutrient cubes, man. Stop complaining.
Exactly. I understand that, but like, there just comes a point where you like, and especially from BSG, and I'm not saying that they've never come out and been like, our players suck, but like, if they're listening to this pod, so here's the thing. Here's where my mind went. A dev is watching this podcast, super down in the dumps that we're just like shitting on the game nonstop. But what I want to communicate is like, maybe we can acknowledge that there's a universe where you're doing everything right, but can you acknowledge what the hell does it look like from our perspective? The guys who have funded this game and been playing and kept it, I'm not streamers. Streamers are only relevant because the players want to watch, right? Like, I'm not a successful streamer if people don't want to watch me, right? So when I say we're the people that kept the game relevant, I'm saying the players, not the streamers.
Yeah.
The players that keep this game relevant. If you're a dev and you're sitting on your couch and you're listening to this podcast, can you just think about what the hell it looks like from our perspective to have this just random stuff thrown around, things we've been begging for, tiny little things we've been begging for years that are so easy, either get ignored or just like on the whim of Nikita get fixed. And we're like, oh, praise Nikita. That's what I'm saying, is that like the frustration, the skepticism, it's just at this point, in my opinion, objectively earned. And if they don't want it, just start communicating with us. Start asking for help, start, maybe including some people in the balancing process, or or something. You know what I mean? So it's just like, that's kind of where I'm at, is it's like, you can't blame the dude in the cell for being frustrated he's in there and frustrated he doesn't know that Cthulhu's on the other side, right? Like, we took that. We took that all the way home.
You ever seen 12 Monkeys?
No, you've brought this up so many times. I need to watch 12 Monkeys.
God. Well, then some people will get the reference of, I'm just thinking about, at one point he's in a fucking cell. Bruce Willis is in a cell. And it's like kind of that thing where it's just like a concrete, concrete cell. And all he hears is a guy that's like, "What's going on, Bob?" I can't think of any other lines he says. But he's going on? He's like this voice that's coming from, like, is it in his head? Is it in the next cell? Is he hearing it through like the ventilation? And that's all I'm thinking about. That voice right there is Twitch chat.
Yeah. What's going on?
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. Now, not to beat the dead horse, but another just like basically another example of this, right? Okay. Did you know? Okay, you haven't been playing Tarkov, so you wouldn't know this. I didn't know. I play Tarkov every day. They added a new muzzle brake for the M4s silently.
Because the M4 needed a new one?
Gotcha. I don't know why, but they did. But people started noticing. I saw a Gigabeef video. Shout out Gigabeef. Homie's got amazing content. I saw in his video. So, like, you know how the jailbreak, like, for a long time, the meta M4 was the jailbreak with the compensator underneath it. Like the jailbreak and the bullet tech compensator. Now, the bugged M4 was the jailbreak and the suppressor, and that was the like 19 recoil broken M4, right? So they added a new compensator, and that compensator fits under the jailbreak and would have been the new meta. It would bring a meta M4 down to 20 vertical recoil. Now, I've always thought it was interesting that, like, the M4 was a gun that almost nobody ever used the meta version because the muzzle flash was so like the meta M4 never really truly was the meta M4. People were using the meta suppressed M4 because the muzzle flash on the jailbreak was crazy, but the recoil was lower, right? So this would have been the new meta. I forget what it's called. It's called the AR-15 Alien Tech. Okay, so then Gigabeef does a video about it. Maybe some other people do as well. It's found in raid only. So this is important. It's the best in slot and it's found in raid only, right? You can't just buy, but you can buy it on the flea market. So they were 170,000 rubles on the flea market. I know, it was like they were halfway there.
For like -1.
They were halfway there, bro. They're halfway there. Anyways, so he posted his video 1 day ago, maybe 2 days ago. Sometimes the tweet thing is 2 days ago. 3 hours ago, Gigabeef posted, the Alien Tech muzzle has been nerfed into oblivion from -19% of recoil to -11. It is now much worse than the Bullet Tech, despite being found in raid only. The Bullet Tech you can buy from traders, and effectively now a carbon copy stats of the Blitz compensator, which is never used.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? Just at every step of the process, I have questions. Why? Why did the M4 need a new muzzle brake? Why did you allow it on the flea market if it's going to be found in raid? Why did you make it the best? And then why did you nerf it
into oblivion?
Not to tie with the best in slot so that maybe there'd be variety in the best in slot. You nerfed it down to the 4th best in slot, which is nothing. It's nothingness. There's a pit of nothingness. You can't name me a single compensator for the M4 other than the Bullet Tech and the ones you need to adapt suppressors, because nobody uses them. So did we need a 19 vertical recoil M4? No. Did we need another 4th best compensator? Also no. So what the hell? Like, I think I know. I have a theory. What?
Nikita's 11-year-old nephew is the one making all the decisions. Nikita's been on vacation for 2 years. They're like, yo, what should we add? He's like, a new attachment for the gun that was made by aliens, dude. And they're like, okay, I guess we're going to add the alien tech. And it's like, hey, Joey, apparently it's too good. What should we do? yo, make it really fucking expensive and then make it all so bad. Okay, cool. Yep, we're on it,
dude.
That explains like everything.
It would be the most acceptable scenario, honestly. So that was just like for the people who are like, just stop harping on the Val. Once again, like you said earlier, it's a pattern of behavior. Somebody might look at this and be like, come on, dude, it doesn't matter. It's an irrelevant attachment now. And I go, exactly. Exactly. Like everything is either the best or irrelevant, right? Like there were so many different ways they could have gone with this, where it could have been the second best, maybe better on Ergo and purchasable from traders. It could have been the best Ergo and best, but only found in raid, not sellable on the flea market. There was like 4 different ways they could have done this so that like it still would have almost never been used, but it would have been like, oh, I can see where this is going. If more guns and more attachments go like this could actually be fun. But it just like everything in the game is either the best or completely irrelevant, dude. And it's just like, why are we adding compensators to the game in a nothing burger patch? Like, I don't have any reason to believe that literally any other thing came into the game with that patch than this compensator that was nerfed 18 hours later.
I mean,
and
honestly,
and then the other part of it is like, how did you not know it was the best? Did nobody at the office build a meta M4 with this thing? Like, did nobody at the office build a meta M4 with this thing? Say, that has 19 vertical recoil, take it into the hideout and go, before we ship it, maybe we should nerf this a little bit.
Nope. I mean, like, dude, here's what I would have done, and here's the solution to the problem for the next fucking year. It should have been for the last 4 years, but here's what I would do. You want to add anything new, make everything identical.
Yeah.
And then what I would do, honestly, if this was my game tomorrow, I would say, okay, here's like the middle of the road. We're going to take level 4 armor, whatever this level 4 armor is.
Yeah.
And helmet. And I'm going to balance it such that this bullet will kill to the thorax in 3 bullets or 5 bullets to the thorax. And then balance all of the bullets around like the average fire rate of the gun. Just make everything identical.
Like standardize it. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, for now, until you like
figure it out.
Because until you have an economy where prices matter and they're relevant and they're dynamic, where the supply and demand of the things in raid is important and makes sense, until you have actually fully designed like all of the movement and animations and weapon handling, the recoil, the sway, you've done ergonomics, you've balanced all the movement, until you've done everything, all of the balancing is irrelevant. So just make it so that every single thing is viable and fun, even if it's not realistic. And then 3 months before you ship 1.0, you say, hey guys, balancing patch. Balancing wipe. We're going to wipe everything. And we're going to, now that we have all the systems built. And we're going to see, oh, well, 98% of the people are using this one thing. Well, let's balance it so that, and then literally change it. Wait 3 days. You make 3 or 4 changes around some attachments, some guns, and some ammo values. And then you literally, they have all the analytics. Watch the thing that gets used 90% and the thing that gets used 10% start to do this and this and this until it's wherever. It doesn't all have to be in the middle. But wherever the ending thing is, where you want most people to use like a half modded AK. Well, then you need to fucking balance all of that, but do it later. Don't do any of it now, because everything they do now, think about the thousands and thousands and thousands of human hours lost, just development time at BSG, discussing and making all of these changes that are all ephemeral. They're all disposable. Just make it so that you can use every gun, every whatever, and then we can actually enjoy the fucking game a little bit more while you fucking build it and break shit. And then adjust it later when it makes sense, because there's no point in doing it now.
Yeah, I don't know. So ultimately, like, there's some other stuff we can go over, but like the VSS thing drove me close to insanity. And then the M4 thing, just like I just realized very few people know that part exists or that it got nerfed because it just kind of flew under the radar. And because everyone's using valves because, you know, M4s or whatever. But like, I have been losing my mind over, just the principle of it and how few people are willing to like think that far into it, you know what I mean? And just like I keep being told, you know, it's XYZ. You know, I keep being told it's just because I'm a streamer, it's just because I'm rich, it's just because I'm this, that, and the other that I'm mad about this or whatever. And it's like, and it's been driving me. It's been very frustrating.
Hell, I'm poor, I'm average, and I'm barely a streamer, and I agree. So does that make you?
Yes.
Dog, listen. If you're feeling down and out about all this stuff, you know what I'd recommend? I'd recommend that you maybe look into the second sponsor of today's podcast, the largest online therapy platform.
Yeah.
BetterHelp. BetterHelp is a fantastic platform that we've had as a sponsor, one of our longest sponsors. Yeah. And honestly, it's been like no bullshit, not a sales tactic. One of the most integral parts of my life these days is the hour that I get to just like sit down and talk about stuff. Sometimes it's been about streaming. Sometimes it's been about real life stuff. Sometimes it's been about mistakes I made recently, you know, wrongs I've done to people and felt guilty about, you know, like all these little things. BetterHelp is like super accessible, super affordable, super convenient, and can literally change your life.
For sure.
Mental health is just something that has been more and more, and it's a good thing that it's been kind of brought to the forefront because there's just so much bullshit that we all have to deal with. And so many of our problems can be not necessarily solved, but improved and work our way towards that by just talking to somebody. Yeah.
It's so grounding to just speak to another human being because we're just like, just the world we live in is just like, we're just barraged with the best of what's happening in the world, the worst of what's happening in the world, completely irrelevant things that are happening, things that, you know, like we get so, I often have to remind myself, I get so sucked into this like video game, you know, I have to like go outside and go for a walk and be like, dude, it's just a game. Like, it's just like, we're passionate, like we're passionate people and there's a lot to be passionate about and there's just so much going on. And so, I mean, we always make the joke and we always make the transition that Tarkov is driving us insane. But like, seriously, therapy, talking with somebody on a platform like BetterHelp can help you if you are depressed, if you're anxious, if you really, really need help, but also we talk about all the time, preventative to help you if you're just struggling to figure out how to like parse your way through the world. If you just need somebody to speak to, we say this every time and we can't say enough how like tremendously valuable it can be to just have somebody on your team to listen, to learn about yourself. And like you said, the platform is awesome. It brings it all to the internet and it cuts out all of the worst parts of this process, the like figuring out who's going to be a right fit for you. Do you have to call and get an assistant? You know, how much are they going to be? How much are they going to be? How much are they going to be? And it just streamlines everything and really like prioritizes you getting somebody that you feel comfortable with as easily as possible and then letting that relationship form. So, awesome stuff.
Yeah. I think the last thing I want to say on that is the only thing that I get more often than people coming in and being like, yo, I love the podcast. You know, I really enjoy it every week. You know, the second most common thing I get people that come in and actually say, hey man, I use BetterHelp and Dude. I'm actually like my life is on the way to being what I want it to be. Dude. And that's honestly, that is I'll say that's the best kind of message that whether it's a sponsor that we've had like BetterHelp or whether it's any of the content we make, actually just like making people's lives better.
Yep.
I mean, that's all, like, that's the most important thing. So basically, check out betterhelp.com/podcast. That's betterhelp.com/podcast. Pogcast, and get, let me just double check, make sure I don't get this wrong. 10% off your first month.
Yep.
You won't regret it.
Seriously, you won't. So thank you again, BetterHelp, for sponsoring this episode. Back to Tarkov stuff.
Yo, in the middle of that ad, my chat window goes white, and then
How does it
3/4 of the way
know?
through, my activity feed goes white.
How does it know, brother? I don't.
I can't deal with any of this stuff. And you know what? These are the kinds of issues that take weeks to try to diagnose, to debug, and I got to look through all these forum threads and whatever. I lose full days to this shit.
Yep.
And it's like, already got the pressure of streaming, you know, we're needing to, the pressure of like, I got to stream, I'm late, you know, got to get, I want to, and then all of a sudden, I need to get this video out, and all these people are talking about it, and now I got to rush and do that thing, to then real life stuff, people calling and saying, hey, hospital visits, and we got all this important shit, and you got to do this and got to do that, and it's like, what ends up happening is I get OBS crashing every week during the fucking podcast because I just don't have time to, like try to diagnose it.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's somebody I should talk to somebody about. but like, yeah, you live your life. Like if you're a cup, you know, I don't know, there's a scientific term for it where like you can pour water into a cup even if it's full, and the water goes above the edge of the cup a little bit, but doesn't spill out. You know what I mean? Have you seen that?
Tension.
Yeah. Surface tension, whatever.
Surface tension. Meniscus is the other way.
It's like, if you live your life that full, like anything like this is like, I just can't. Like, there's no room. You know what I mean? And that's how I feel like I live so often. You know what I mean? Something like a buddy of mine has been trying to just like talk with me for 20 minutes. He's like, yo, I just want to catch up. And it's taken 3 weeks because like he'll message me and I had like just ended the stream and I have to go make dinner for the family, or I have to do this. It's this. And it's like, so I totally align with that, where it's like, it's almost just easier to let the broken thing continue to break because I just can't. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing left. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So back to Tarkov stuff. Some other small things happened. The boss spawn rate got buffed again. To like almost as high as I feel like I've ever seen it. Sturman and Rashala are at 32% spawn rate, and all the other bosses are at 30% spawn rate. So if you didn't realize that and you're stuck on a boss quest, it's going to be much easier. I found that that's just like a little anecdote. BSG dropped new pictures, new screenshots of the forthcoming Streets expansion on their Twitter a few hours ago today. Nothing like mind-boggling in the sense of like showing something that you're like, oh, that would be a new mechanic, or like, oh, do you think we could vault up there? Just some sexy pictures. Some of them actually give off Interchange vibes. A lot of like inside stuff and some stores from Interchange, like Papillion.
Whatever it is, before I even get here, I'm going to predict that there's trash on the ground and the lighting is dark.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, the first one's the theater,
covered
in trash. The next one, there's trash on the ground, but it's completely bright. The third one is a little dark. That's going to be darker.
Lots of trash on the ground, though.
That's going to be darker in game. You know, by the way, a lot of the screenshots, a lot of the trailers, and a lot of that stuff is captured with different visual settings.
For sure.
That the game doesn't ship with.
For sure. Absolutely.
So there you go, and that's not speculation either. It looks like a fucking Dick's Sporting Goods.
Yep.
Sweet.
Now, as down in the dumps as I am about Tarkov, I'm at the edge of the table looking for breadcrumbs for Straits, because it has been obscene how much of that map I've played. It's just so damn fun. So I'm very excited for it to be bigger. And then there's the part of me that just like goes back to the podcast we did, I think 2 weeks ago, where it's like Streets kind of can't get much bigger without forcing BSG to answer some of the questions we ask about, like, how long is the raid timer going to be? How many PMCs? You know, is there going to be loot drops? So like them being the ones that are like, oh, we're expanding Streets. It's like, well, maybe we'll get answers to some of these questions we've had for literal years. You know what I mean? So there's like a little bit of that excitement too. Nothing too crazy. Nothing else too crazy. I need to send you this clip. You can maybe play it. But Seal has been streaming again, and I saw this clip, dude, and it was a bug where copy link. He killed a guy, and I can't tell in the clip if it's a scav or if it's a PMC, but he killed a guy, and the dead body is only visible when he aims through his scope. And when he's not aiming, the body is invisible in the grass.
Oh, and it's not even like it's.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. No, it. Wait, it. No, it. Oh my God, I'm going back and forth. You can see. What the fuck? So when you say visible and invisible.
Yeah. It's like.
It's not completely.
Yeah, it's like when you look through the scope, it's like half of the grass de-renders, but at 1 foot away. So like he's lying there, but it's like you could never. You would never walk around scoped in looking at the grass, right? And you would almost never find this guy when not ADS'd. Oh, dude, it's just... I just found that clip to be hilarious.
I'm going to toss this in chat. Oh, never mind. Someone else did already.
Bada bing, boom, bada.
Yeah, I mean, that right there, it's
like,
an example of...
what's happening there? I don't even know.
In my chat GPT video, I don't know if you ever got a chance to watch that one where I asked it about the quests. One of the things I talked about with like Shooter Born in Heaven is how it's like, I don't like sniping because I just don't trust that I'm like camouflaged, and it's because of shit like this.
Yeah.
Where like for some reason I'll be getting shot and like I'll see tracer and I don't see anything, and then I'll scope in and like see the guy perfectly clear through like the 6x or whatever, but like his pixels just are not rendering even tinily, from 150 meters away. But then I'm like crouched in a bush, prone, waiting for 15 minutes, and I see somebody running, and I'm like lining up my shot, and they just turn and start shooting at me. I'm like, what? And then I see the clip, and it was like, there's no bush, So it's like, what the fuck am I doing?
Bro, me and Valiant were playing on labs today, and okay, so the spawn where you spawn in the back hallway by the kitchen, and basically you spawn, and if you look right, you can look down and go to red room or go all the way down to parking. Like just like down that hall. So So basically opposite the where you hit the parking button, there's that, and then there's the red room, and then all the way there. They're there.
Yep.
He was in that back hallway, okay, on the boxes that are like right there by that thing. Me and Velian, okay, I'm not joking. We were by like in front of green, to the left by the dark offices, those glass offices where the safe is, where there's like a safe in there, basically near on top by the green room, but even farther in the corner. And Valiant stopped, and he was like, bro. And both of us, he had a scope, but I didn't, and I could still see him. We could see that guy crouched on the boxes. Like 4 walls weren't loading, and the boxes he was standing on weren't loading. He was just floating there on my screen on the other side of the map. And the way he would rendered, it was like a bunch of fog, so I could see him like cut through the fog.
Like a JPEG copy pasted on top of the game?
Yeah.
Was he like moving, or was it frozen?
He was just sitting there, and we were like, and we knew we couldn't shoot him because there were like 4 walls in our way, right? And
were there?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we could have tried.
Listen, if a wall renders in the forest, in the labs,
does anybody see it?
Does anybody see it?
But there's Reverse just posted the clip if you want to see him. You'd have to like screenshot it and like zoom in. Later, I get a voodoo. But so like
I just realized my mental map that I had of your description was completely wrong.
So yeah, to the right,
wrong.
To the right is green, and we're looking all the way through the kitchen. By the way, the kitchen should be occluding him. The whole kitchen is gone. He's in that back corner, basically by red room from where we are, floating. Okay. And
you sure that's a guy and not like on the sign?
No, bro. You need to see Valiant's perspective. Like Voodoo. So So the guy, and it was funny because we had just talked about how like labs has become just like people hiding in corners waiting. So me and Valiant were like, well, this is kind of lame, right? Like this guy, like we have information this guy doesn't, we shouldn't have. So we were like, let's see how long he'll stay there. And he ate 2 MREs. Okay, we were there for 15 minutes. He ate 2 MREs. He would lean every once in a while. He would pivot and turn around. Like, we went and killed some raiders. I looted up a little bit, dude.
He's a literal NPC, dude.
And he was just sitting there. Raiders spawned over there. He killed some raiders from up on the box. And he was there for
actual NPC.
Forever, dude. Forever. And we ended up like going like a really weird way because we killed some raiders, and then we went up behind and he wasn't there, and we saw the raiders he had killed. So we were like, okay. So then we went back to parking. I heard something. I turned around and he was going back. I saw him go back towards that spot. So we pinched him and I killed him. He was level 28. Oh yeah, there it is with the voodoo. That clip. Like, and so we would just like watch him eat. And he was there for like 15 minutes, bro. But it was just, there was so much because like the LOD, like there's so many walls between me and that guy. Like so many walls. Like we are literally on opposite ends of the map. We could barely be farther away from each other on the top floor of labs in that clip.
A mutant?
Yeah, he had a suppressed mutant. Yep.
With a fucking 75 round drum?
Yes, Veritas. So
if he was cheating, he would have he would have acknowledged you guys.
Yeah.
Like wiggled or.
So do you see how messed up that is? That like there's like on that diagonal, the entire kitchen sits between us and him. And not only can we know it's a man, but you correctly identified that he was using a suppressed mutant with a 75 round drum.
And like a voodoo.
Yeah, and a voodoo. That's exactly what he was running. That was the exact kit.
Did you kill him later?
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh, okay.
It's all 28.
Wow. His heart was racing.
75 round drum,
time.
all BP.
Well, yeah, that was the one. If I'm gonna take my BP, I'm gonna fucking survive. Dude, if you die in the game, you die in real life. Okay, that's how he's playing.
But we didn't, like I said, we didn't end up using like that knowledge to kill him because we went over there to check and he wasn't there, and we were leaving and I heard him behind me, so I turned around and I saw him, and then we pushed him and pinched him. So it wasn't like we like snuck up on him or impact naded him using that knowledge, but like.
And then he said, "Stop, criminal scum!" in the fucking Skyrim voice. You zoomed in on his face.
Yeah. So like, but it was just like you were talking about like the LOD and like the bushes and like never knowing. Like that dude literally sat up there not knowing 2 juicers were watching him for 15 minutes eating.
Yeah. Joke's on you, but what actually happened was both you and Velian have had wall hacks this entire time, and you both simultaneously accidentally toggled it on your stream at the same time.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it's just a weird rendering. Oh, it's gotta be.
Oh yeah. Somebody said, what's the NFT M4? That's what I call like you can still find the broken M4s with the jailbreak and the suppressor, because when they fix it, they just meant if you took it off, you can't put it back on. So there's still some floating around. So I call that the NFT.
Floating around like this PMC.
Floating around like this PMC.
Are we sure? Wait. I'm trying to figure out the scale of this guy, because he looks to me like, at least when you zoom in, like I feel like if he was all the way back, so there's that back hallway that's like a dead end.
Yes. With
like a door that's not openable, and there's boxes and boxes on both sides. I feel like he'd be smaller, even at a 6x through there. Like that looks like he's in the
we found
I don't know.
Yeah, we found his ditched backpack, and all the raiders he killed and all the blood splats were coming like were down to the floor. Like he was like where he killed the raiders, they spawned by red and they moved up that hall across that glass sky bridge, and he killed them from up on that box. Like
it's probably an area where like you can't like the raiders don't see
you above. Yeah. It was like
Yikes,
it was dude, it was crazy. So that was was something. That was surely something that happened today. So yeah, the LOD out of control. Nothing else happening in Tarkov. We've been talking about this. I've been even messaging you a little bit about this. Like me and Valiant have been talking a lot just about like PvP in general and a lot of the systems that seem overtuned. I even asked you a little bit about like, do you know how like the blacked out limb damage works still, or like blunt or collateral damage? Like it's all so confusing, and I think they were even looking for some feedback around it, but like it's just been like, you know,
were they looking for feedback?
Yeah. Well, yeah, who knows? I don't know. Anyways, it's just been something that me and Valiant have been talking about so long, because like the thing is that like people, almost everybody has their thing where they're like, if you just do this right, then PvP will be fixed. You know what I mean? Like just do this, just, you know, get rid of inertia, just do this. And it's like, the thing is, it's everything. It's all the things together. You know what I mean? Like I can send you a clip. I sent it to them, and I had a slick and like a ULAC or a Bastion or something, and I was on streets, and Sheaf killed a dude, and I was wrapping around Concordia, and there was a guy in a bush with an SR2, the new SMG, and he killed me. I did my best to frame by frame it, and based on what the end screen showed me, I got hit 2 times in the arm. So he was directly to my left, like just 90 degrees. He was just directly to my left, and it hit me once in the arm. And after the first hit, my arm went black, and like my thorax went red, and everything else in my body went light red. And then the second shot killed me. And it was like, and then when you go to the end screen, it says, you know, left arm 2 hits, and then it says thorax, collateral from left arm ×4, or stomach ×4. Right arm collateral from left arm ×4, head collateral from left arm ×4, both legs say collateral from left arm ×4, and my thorax says collateral from left arm ×6, and blunt damage ×4. 2 hits from a round that does 49 damage, and I was full health with a slick. Now obviously he hit me in the arm, and that's kind of the point, is that like all of these things, just like I'm just like, what am I doing? Like, what is that? You know what I mean? Like, what was that? Was that just like the one? Was it a bug? Was that just like the 1% where the bullet hit me? And
you say a bug?
Yeah,
like
exactly. Was it a bug, or was it the perfect? It hit me and it fragmented and it collateraled, and then the second shot hit me and it fragmented and it like it. But that's the thing. Like, is like the player. You and me have talked about these mechanics a lot, but like the player, if you're like a random player, is that an intended? You're going to be like, what? You know what I mean? And then the flip side is, how many times have you shot up a guy? Then I also have a clip of, I've got subsonic. It's not the best ammo and an MP7, but I'm like, and I hit this guy like leg, arm, stomach, leg, and he runs away, and I have to reload, and then I kill him with 1 shot to the leg. And I'm like, those experiences suck. That the game is not telling you what's happening there, because it's not.
Or they are telling you, and you still don't know if you can trust it.
Because it's not what you'd think. It's not, he was using better ammo, bro. Like, he was using PS. Like, that has 49 damage, okay? I got hit twice and lost 440 health. That math ain't mathing. Even if you assume both rounds did 150 damage. Like, if they both fragmented, right? So it's like...
Wait, 150 damage?
No, I'm saying it's 150%, like the 50% more. Yeah. Like if you assume they both did the 50% more damage, like that math still doesn't math. And it's one of those things where it's like people, like, I don't think people realize how much that stuff affects the experience and affects the inability for the player to learn, and how much that de-incentivizes people to use good gear. And then in a game like Tarkov, if you're not attempting to go get good gear, what the hell are you doing? You know what I mean? If we're all just running around in TV rigs and shattered masks, well, those are accessible on day 2 of the wipe. You know, level 2 ragman or whatever you can barter for a TV rig. And if that's all we're running 4 months into a wipe, so it's like the implications of this stuff. So like, I've just been processing recently how, like, you know, people say PvP and they often think recoil. Bring back old recoil. And I do think the recoil is a part of it. I talked at like length about that last week, but it's not just recoil. It's not just desync. It's also like blunt damage. Nobody knows what the hell that is. We know that if I get shot and my armor absorbs it, I'm going to take a little bit of damage. But how much damage? And does the after action report reflect that much damage? It says that I got blunt damage, but it doesn't say how much HP those blunt damages did. Collateral damage is 6,000 hours is collateral damage. When it says that at the end screen, that's
overflow.
That's the damage overflow? Yeah, okay. So like, but
because how could two bullets fragment into evenly into every part of your body?
Yeah, but also, if you're standing in front of me, I should have tested this. If you're standing in front of me sideways and I lay prone and I shoot you in one leg with M61, does it not also properly collateral to the other leg? Like, and actually do damage to both legs? Isn't that also a mechanic in the game?
Yes. So, that is not
correct.
But that's not what they mean by collateral.
But that's what I'm saying. So here we are again. Yeah. So collaterals actually do happen, where if you get hit in a limb and that bullet continues to travel, it will do damage to the other limb. But funny enough, that's not what they mean when they show you collateral damage in the after action report. What they mean is the damage overflow, which also isn't displayed to the player. I knew that you knew, which is why I asked you, which is why I now know it's 1.5%, 1.5 times for the stomach, 0.7 for the arms, 1 for the legs, right? Like,
I think it's a language thing, because like the actual definition of collateral damage is injury inflicted on something other than the intended target.
Gotcha.
So you hit the arm, but then there's damage done to other limbs.
Yep.
As a result.
Yep. Which I guess that definition does apply to the whole like overflow damage. You blacked it out, then you shoot me again. I take damage everywhere because of that, which would technically be collateral damage. Yeah.
Yeah. The problem is the colloquial term in English is like a collat, right?
Yeah.
For it always means 2 kills for 1 bullet.
Yeah.
You headshot the people lined up and you headshot, right? Because in no other game are there different hit zones.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, in the last 20 years, the number of times collateral has been used is always in games where there's there's one hit pool, there's one health pool for your whole body. And
then because both of those mechanics exist in this game on top of each other, both of the definitions of collateral, it just makes it unreal. So
it's ambiguous.
Exactly.
Sure.
So it's like, so we talk about PvP and it's like, yeah, sure. Like the recoil is a part of it, and the desync is a part of it, and the audio is a part of it, and the full auto meta is a part of it. But it's also this kind of stuff. Like a lot of people say TTK, time to kill. You and me have talked at length about how like a little bit longer of a time to kill allows for reaction time. It allows for a little bit more skill. It's just all that stuff. It is just like, basically, as I've been thinking a lot recently about how, yes, all the big obvious ones are a big part of the PvP feeling a lot worse. I've been basically on a crusade to be like, okay, I really resisted this. PvP feels worse than it used to be, rose-colored glasses for a long time. And then I realized I started succumbing to it, and I started getting really frustrated, and I started being like, damn, the PvP was so much better back in the day. And so I've been like on this crusade to like figure out why and try to get like a really good view about it, and not because the last thing we want to do is like mount the community on a crusade that if this thing happens, it'll fix PvP when it won't, right? Like no one thing would. If we had perfect desync in 2 weeks, we would be mauling again on the podcast, because there are so many layers to this. And so I'm just trying to like get a really measured view of it. Not that I have any influence, right? But like, and so
yeah, you're not going to get a measured view on it.
Yeah. So I've been trying to think about how these things really affect time to kill. They affect PvP. They affect the player's ability to learn from whatever the hell went on, right? Blunt damage, collateral damage, actual collateral limb damage, fragmentation, all of this stuff, man. It's like, it just seems also overtuned.
Well, it's not overtuned if you think about it. Like you calculate the blunt throughput of the bullet that they don't give you in the game.
Yeah.
And that then you multiply that by 97% of the difference between the armor resistance and the pen value.
Yeah.
The armor resistance being another formula, by the way, that with like
which is
7
determined
variables.
by the armor material.
Yep, and then clamp that between 0.2 and 1, and that's the blunt damage. That didn't make sense to you
When you just see blunt damage parentheses 4, that didn't even make sense. When you only got shot twice, how did I get 4 blunt damages when I only got shot twice, Veritas?
Yeah, what do you mean? Like it seems super. And what makes me hate it even more is knowing how all these formulas, knowing all of them, and also knowing that all of this shit ends up getting resolved down to like you die in 1 bullet to 5 bullets.
Yeah.
Right? Like all of these things.
It's quantum physics to change the outcome from 1 to 2 bullets.
Yep.
Like it could just be arithmetic. It doesn't have to be quantum physics. Like blunt damage is 10% of the bullet's damage. Done. If it doesn't pen, just do 10% of the damage.
I've been wanting to like design like a Dungeons and Dragons, but like Tarkov campaign. You know, I've been thinking about this whole idea, and it actually makes sense. What would be perfect is rather than just like roll a d20 and have that number be the outcome, like compare 2 numbers, right?
Yeah.
What I'm gonna do is, it's like, okay, cool. So Prapor fired his bow at fucking Jaeger, but he was also coming out of stealth, so it should be a crit just because he's class 3. He's a class 3 ranger.
Yeah.
So, and he's also a wood elf, which gives him bonuses on archery, and he was using a longbow, but that's beside the point. So what I'm going to do is, rather than roll the d20, I have a medium difficulty Sudoku. Now I'm gonna put that in front of you. We're all gonna wait while you solve the Sudoku, okay? But then after you solve the Sudoku, the top row, the top line, I'm going to enter into my phone. We're gonna call, okay? And whatever the phone, you use that as the phone number. Whoever answers, I'm gonna say, give me a number between 1 and 20. And they're gonna say 7, and then okay, that's the outcome. Rather than roll a d20, because like, why would I make it simpler?
Dude, it's a hardcore version of Dungeons and Dragons, bro. It's hardcore, bro.
But that's unironically the way I see it.
Yeah,
it's like the most absurd. Multiply, divide, round, clamp, divide, multiply, add, clamp, multiply, divide, round, add, clamp, multiply, divide. The answer's 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Why? I don't know, man. I don't know. And once again, and like, you know, the eternal optimist in me, I think blunt damage is a cool mechanic. Basically, we would have ranted for 20 more minutes saying the same things that
they don't know how to design a video game.
That like all of the cool mechanics are taken to the nth degree and made to be as obscure and vague as possible. And I think that those things affect PvP and the game in general in a negative way. Obviously, the internet wants this podcast to be over. We made it through everything on our list, so we'll just go ahead and close it up. Nothing really else happening. Hopefully, we'll see some more news soon. Thank you guys for sticking with us. Thank you guys, all the real ones who stuck with us live through it, and we appreciate you guys. Huge thank you to Babbel and BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode. And I think we're both going to go do a session with BetterHelp right now. And yeah, thank you guys. This will be posted live, all the places, early next week. We love you. Thank you for sticking with us. We'll see you on the next one.
Peace.